A lot of people have been talking about the Nigerian economy. Why? Although we've not seen recent increments in petrol prices, the dollar has consistently beaten the naira in recent times. Naira has lost some value, and Nigerians say that their purchasing power has reduced. And we're going to be linking this to human rights, because of a court case. And it's the fundamental right of every Nigerian living in Nigeria, enshrined in the Nigerian Constitution, to have access to certain things, most especially food, and some other items that we will talk about. But Femi Falana, who took that case to court, is arguing that there is the Price Regulation Act, I believe, and some of the items listed in that court case are supposed to be regulated by the government. So I'm quickly reading from the Punch newspaper with the caption: "Court orders FG to fix prices of goods in 7 days." Now, the Federal High Court in Lagos Wednesday ordered the federal government to fix the prices of goods and petroleum products within 7 days. Justice Ambrose Louis Alagba specifically ordered the government to fix the price of milk, flour, salt, sugar, bicycles and their spare parts, I don't get that part, matches, I guess, motorcycles and their spare parts, motor vehicles and their spare parts, as well as petroleum products, which includes diesel, premium motor spirit known as petrol, and kerosene. Now, the judge gave the order while delivering judgment in suits. The number is there online, you can go read it, filed by human rights activist Mr. Femi Falana against the Price Control Board and the Attorney General of the Federation, listed as the first and second defendants. Now, Falana had approached the court to determine by virtue of Section 4 of the Price Control Act, the first respondent, which is the Price Control Board, is carrying out its duty to impose the price on any goods that are of the kind specified in the first schedule of the Price Control Act. And a declaration that the failure or refusal of the respondents to fix the prices of bicycles and spare parts and all the other items I listed earlier is illegal, as it offends the provision of Section 4 of the Price Control Act cap of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, Falana said. All right, I've got Barry Henry Ekine, is a human rights lawyer, and he's the National Legal Advisor for the Committee of Defense of Human Rights, and he's with me not in the studio, but via the phone. Welcome on the show.
Yeah, thank you, Kalada, for having me. It's my pleasure to be with you this afternoon.
It looks like the dusty that we have has gotten to you. You don't sound very
yes, I'm under the weather, and what we do is the season.
All right, sorry about that, and get well soon.
Thank you.
Now, to my first question. Price Control Act, right, stipulates that prices of these items aforementioned should be regulated. However, you run a free economy, so to say, where the market the market determines the prices of the items aforementioned. Once again, because you want to take into cognizance the cost of production, the current economic situation that the manufacturing companies are going through. You want to look at all this thing, but then again, also in the Constitution, like I mentioned, I still to be corrected. That there is the part where we have, as human beings, as Nigerians, the right, to some of these items aforementioned, especially food items. So, what's your take on all of these things happening? The court order, the petition by Falana, and then the Price Control Act.
Yeah, thank you. This actually is one of the aspects of what human rights advocates, and of course those who pursue the interests of citizens to the greatest number will really do. So I commend Femi Falana SAN, the chairman of the board of trustees of the Committee for the Defense of Human Rights, in taking out this public interest suit and to draw the attention of government to what indeed they are required to do. There are a lot of other legislations in this country that ordinarily were enacted to enhance the welfare of citizens, but office holders and leaders of these days would definitely the other way with respect to those relations, and then continue to narrow our mind and our thoughts daily on issues of politics, and then virtually everybody on the street will almost every day refer to the Electoral Act, refer to some other legislations that relate to politics and political matters, but there are a whole lot of other legislations, and of course the Price Control Act is one of those, and this commendable one. But then, yes, Justice Salagwa has entered the judgment in this regard, and then ordered the authority, that is the Price Control Board, established under Section 1 of the Price Control Act, to regulate the prices of those essential commodities. About 12 or 30, 25 of them are listed on that, the first schedule to that legislation. It's important that Nigerians must understand that we really do have a society that economy is very important and should be regulated, even when we hold the view that we are a free market, or if we operate a free economy. Yeah. But there is still the need to control the prices of certain essential commodities. That's the fundamental. Every society, by the way, every society and every nation in the world, even the freest of economies, regulate prices of certain essential commodities to ensure, the very objective is to ensure greater accessibility and affordability of those essential goods and services for citizens. Okay. That's fundamental. You do that by different ways, even by way of certain tariffs and excise duties. You regulate prices by these ways, and then some other direct regulations in this regard, having Price Control Act, is in the United States, in the United Kingdom, and of course in this country.
But now, Mr. Ekine, look at our economy. The dollar is a reflection of where we are right now. You know, when we say the dollar is against the naira. In fact, some people say we run a dollarized economy. So, as we are, running a dollarized economy, we also should put in cognizance that we import majority of these goods that have been listed in that law. The motor parts, the vehicles, everything on that list currently is imported. So I don't think the government has any kind of control right now as to the value of the naira when compared to foreign currency. So how possible would it be for the government to implement this order?
There are options that the government could employ to ensure that you regulate this price. That's why it's important that this institute was instituted in the first place, and then also that this position was taken by this court. And I think, for me, this is judicial activism. And then let me just state some of these measures. When you want to control prices, to in a way set what we call the price floor. The price floor in a price control regime or situation is the minimum price to sell any commodity or render any service. That's actually what the price floor means. Then the price ceiling have been the maximum. So where deliberately government wants to fix a price floor, then there are options you could take. Let's say there are goods that you are not manufacturing and being imported. I mentioned about tariffs and then excise duties. Okay, now you want to regulate the prices to be as minimal as possible. Then it means that you would take off certain tariffs and then probably excise duties on some of those goods. That's one. Then two, you can also deliberately on fiscal policies and then regulate maybe how people will import those goods and bring them into the country to access the required foreign exchange to be able to get them probably easier at lower rates. These are things that could be done. But what has happened over the years is that we just have forgotten about these legislations, and then anything about enhancing the welfare of citizens doesn't seem to be part of the concern of our present administrations really lately. Otherwise, they can can't pretend not to have some solution to some of these problems. Now, it's important that I draw attention to our listeners. The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria actually has, under Section 30, Section 16, the economic objectives of the country. And they are very laudable to the extent that the state, and that means every level of government, shall continually pursue this economic objective to harness the resources of this country and promote national prosperity. And of course, at all times, ensure that there is efficient and dynamic, self-reliant economy. How do you do this? It's through monetary policy, fiscal policies, and some other regulations, including price control. Recall here that it's not they require that the government is going to control the price of all commodities and services. The first schedule to the Price Control Act, I think I listed only about 25 items, and then they are deliberate because there are. If maybe what we need to do is even to amend that law and expand the frontiers of those items, because people need to survive. People need to survive, and they need to regulate the economy at times to be able to contain the vagaries of imports and exchange rates regimes, and even the challenges that the global economy may pose on your citizens. That's the government.
Okay.
If you have your balance of trade and balance of payment unfavorable, then it means that you have to work towards ensuring that you have a favorable balance of trade and balance of payment. That means how you export more than you will import. That's to have a favorable balance of trade, or that you receive more than you send out. That is to ensure a favorable balance of payment. But a situation where you have your economy in a way that the balance of trade is unfavorable on your side, that is, you import more than you export, or the balance of payment is unfavorable on your side, you rather send more money out than money comes in, then it's unfortunate. It means that somebody is not doing something right somewhere. Again, that's
okay. Go ahead, 10 seconds because
that same economic objective is such that the government is required to control the economy. That's fundamental. Section 16 sub 1b of the Constitution, and that's where perhaps this law derived its legitimacy. That you control the economy, the national economy, in such a manner as to secure the maximum welfare, freedom, and happiness of every citizen. So, what is the state doing today?
Okay.
Deliberate state would have to make some sacrifices, as a matter of fact, to be able to control the prices of certain essential commodities to widen the scope of accessibility and, if you like, affordability of these essential services.
Ekine, we'll go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about the excise duties as it relates to government's revenue, and we will talk about the PIA. So just stay online, and we'll come back.
Oh yes, Nasco quality cornflakes are so full of
hard 6.3 Nigerian for Rebatable. And I have with me via the phone Ekine, who is a human rights lawyer and is the National Legal Advisor for the Committee of Defense of Human Rights. And we are talking about the court order mandating the federal government to fix the prices of certain items that are contained in the Price Control Act. And he says, my guest of course says, it is the right thing to do. The government must find a way to put up a price floor, which is the lowest that the price can go and maximum that the price can go as well. All right, welcome back on the show, Ekine. Good to have you.
Yes, thank you, Kalada.
So before the commercial break, I told I was going to talk about the excise duties you mentioned. You said since we are more of an importing nation, the government should find a way to reduce excise and other taxes that usually would come with importation of goods. However, the government is looking for revenue, is looking for cash. When you look at the economy, excise duties, or let's just say taxes, are the second most revenue for the government. Given our current economic state, do you think it would be a wise thing for the government to do? I know you're saying yes, human rights should be preserved. However, if the government does not have enough revenue, will the government be able to govern the people?
Yes, but recall that I also said earlier that it's not about all the commodities and services that are valuable in the entire
nation.
Let's say regulation by the Nigerian Customs Service or any other tax agency of government. But we're talking about the essential commodities for survival. You can never compare the need for human survival with any other objective of state. And that's why I referred us to Section 16 of the Constitution, which has economic objective. We have other objectives, educational objectives, political objectives, environmental, social and cultural, but economic objective. And let me say, for instance, Kala, if you look at the 25 list under the first schedule of the Price Control Act, you will see that the items listed there are very important for survival in the area of actual first human needs of food. Those are food items that are there. And then you talk about also shelter. Those are very essential elementary needs of man. And that is why take the same section 16 of the Constitution, subsection 2, and you see that paragraph B, Nigerian state has an aspiration. We shall make policies, meaning including tax policies and the excise duties and our tariff, to ensure that there is suitable and adequate shelter, sustainable and adequate food for all citizens of this country. So you cannot on the one hand have in your constitution a direct principle for state policies, an aspiration for your country, which would have been a laudable one, that we aspire that we should have suitable and adequate shelter, that is housing for citizens. And you can imagine the rate of housing deficit in this country that is burgeoning, is increasing every year in any administration. So why would we not look at the price, regulating the price of cement? That's what this Price Control Act is talking about. Cement is one of the items. And then roofing sheets are some other item. So government must take a deliberate step in policy to ensure that we regulate these building materials. So the building sector should be regulated in such a way that there must be a price ceiling, that maximum that you must sell a bag of cement in this country, so that citizens can afford to get cement and then have access to suitable shelter either by themselves or provided by state.
Okay. I get your argument, but let's not come to. Can you hear me now?
We had, I think, the regime that preceded the World Trade Organization was the General Agreement on Trade and Tariff, or Tariff and Trade. When that regime was a time where nations in this world, countries in this world, were very people, very much protective of their economies and their people, such that they regulated their tariffs and even their trade relations between themselves and other countries. The first objective is the welfare of their citizens. So even when we transited from the General Agreement on Trade and Tariff and got to the World Trade Organization, you could hear today the struggle between developing countries and the advanced countries with respect to, if you like, it says protectionist kind of policies with respect to trade, because you must protect your home first. But here we look outside. Everything we want to get is by import. Even our exchange rate appears to be favorable to other economies than it is to our economy. So that's what this act was actually intended to achieve.
Okay.
To create greater access and affordability to essential goods, not all goods or services. And let me tell you again, Kalada, there's even one other important legislation that I believe that in the coming days and weeks that we also will look at is the Weights and Measures Act. These are important legislations in our country that we seem to have just gone the other way against. The Weights and Measures Act seeks to protect consumer rights and citizens of this country in terms of measures of things and even the way that we price our commodities.
All right.
I tell you, what was intended was that the ministries of commerce and trade, whether at the national level or the state levels, were required to regulate how things were measured and weighed in this country. So if we're going by a kilogram, you say if a kilogram of beef shall be 1,000 naira, it shall be that anybody who was going to sell beef in the market or anywhere in this country must go by the scale. And so if you must buy beef, you go to the market, you already know that as you're going to the market, you put 1,000 naira in your pocket. You are sure of getting a kilogram of beef. But today, because prices are not regulated, you go to the market with 5,000 naira, you're not sure of the quantum of beef you get.
But this is where
fish.
This is where the argument is. Can you really now say that a kilo of beef should be 1,000 naira, given that there is the reflection of the foreign exchange on our economy? There is the reflection of the removal of subsidy on petrol on our economy. So can we really now say, oh, this should be the price? Because these things, before a cow, where we get beef usually from, not be selling for what, 700,000, before it could have been sold for 100 or 200 or 1,000. So these are the issues.
Kalada, again, it's possible, and how it's possible when you want to regulate or control prices. People don't seem to understand that even in the United States that there are subsidies in certain essential services and goods, right? And that's the purpose. That's the reason. The problem we had here is that we prioritize wrongly. Okay, so when we are deliberate that we're really going to ensure that we have food security and our people really are fed, and again probably are housed in terms of shelter, and these particular areas of these items in the schedule of price control act, then we'll make other policies with that intention to achieve those objectives. And how do we do this? So if you find that we import more of beef, I talked about balance of trade here. If you find that we import more of beef, that's why probably we cannot seemingly control the price of beef to have a price floor, right? That's the minimum of the price of selling beef. Then you must be deliberate as ensuring that you reduce the rate of
taxation. Hello, are you?
And promote local production of beef or any commodity as it were. So those are deliberate policies.
Can you repeat?
And then we are not deliberate about.
Can you repeat, because we could not hear you for a bit. So can you repeat? Oh my. Are you there?
Yes.
I was. You were talking about if we import beef. We're going to nation. So can you repeat yourself, please, if you don't mind?
Yes. I was saying that in all of these, you would have deliberate policy to regulate even price in your country, and if you itemize these services and goods, and because you are deliberate, you want to control the prices because of their influence on the citizens in your country, then you also be Okay, if you say it's about food items, beef, for instance, and then because you want to control the price of beef, and then fix a price floor, that's the minimum of how much a cow should cost. And you realize that, all the cows that you get in this country are imported from either Holland or the UK or elsewhere, or in Canada. And then that, because of the exchange rate, then your prices are going to be high here. So what do? You'll be deliberate to ensure that you produce more beef here. Yes, you farm cattle and rear in home, so that you don't suffer the exchange rate. Otherwise, if you can't, you subsidize that sector of the economy.
All right.
Like I said, we prioritize wrongly when we probably subsidize sectors that benefit more of the elite, and then those who are able to afford for these commodities and services at the expense of those who cannot afford. But if you have the right priorities, then it means that you subsidize services and goods that will be required by a greater proportion of your population. And of course, even those who are lower on the economic, if you like, rung of the ladder. So that's how I think that an economic policy should be considered, and then decision making in this regard. It is not impossible to control prices. Like I said, even the advanced economists control prices in certain areas on certain commodities and services.
Okay.
And especially when you know that commodities and services are very essential to the survival and welfare of your citizens. You could see that this is taking us back to even Section 14 of the Constitution, that the primary responsibility of government is to continually ensure the welfare of citizens and to maximize the welfare of citizens.
All right.
So if you know and you realize that is your primary responsibility, then all of your policies should be directed towards enhancing the welfare of citizens, including your exchange regime, including your monetary policies, your fiscal policies, and of course, even your priorities for subsidizing commodities and services in your country.
Okay, I want to ask you one more question so I can open the phone lines. And that question will take us to the PIA, the Petroleum Industry Act. Now, that took us many years to arrive at, and now we are there. It is one of the reasons that we were able to remove subsidy, because it gave the legal backing for that. Now, saying fixing price or fixing the prices of petroleum products, would that not be going against the Petroleum Industry Act, which allows for market forces to determine a huge amount of what happens in the petroleum industry?
The reason we have actually failed in controlling prices of petroleum products, or the attempt to regulate that sector, rather created some difficulty, was because we failed to do the needful. Just like I talked about the beef production here. If we had, before now, we had our refineries, and I think when the government was deliberate to set up the refineries, it's so that they'll be able to control the price. I recall that I had an uncle who was, I think, the chief marketing officer of the petroleum product marketing also the parastatal of the NNPC. At that time, you had the refineries working, and so you have the tank farms, you have all the depots everywhere, they are functional. So government can really clearly regulate the price of that commodity. But when for whatever reason, it probably became profitable to those who thought that we should just allow the refineries to die off, and then even all the depots to dry up, all those are owned by state. And so private sector investors will set up those depots. You find a situation where we allowed the pricing of petroleum product, which was an essential item, product that affects a whole lot of other sectors of your economy, and even the welfare of citizens, in the hands of capitalists, in the hands of businessmen, if you like. But if you really are deliberate about controlling prices, and then you identify petroleum products, which of course one of the items under the 25 item under the first schedule, then you have to be deliberate about other policies, which will include less revamp our refineries and make sure they work really effectively, not the kind of turnaround maintenance that we do here. Or, again, not being deliberate to be sure that indeed we get a full turnaround of the refineries. Who says that if at the time in 1974, thereabout, or 1979, that we got this refinery, that we had perhaps less than 100 million Nigerians, and probably half the population, or the proportion of the population that consume those petroleum products, that we don't even need to have double or triple of that number of refineries, but rather had them all dead. So these are critical issues that I think that I am not an economist, but probably just because one has got some training or some understanding of some of these things by reading some literature, or even one's probably studies in other disciplines apart from law. But these are the fundamentals we must understand about our economy. But I'm surprised that when we even get the central bank governors, we get the ministers for finance, and then even commissioners for finance across states, and then they sit at state economic council meeting, and these policies are considered and decisions are taken, but we don't seem to be solving any problem. It's very worrisome. I wonder what these people are actually going to have that round table and discuss and do in terms.
Is this court order implementable?
Every order of court is valid and enforceable until it's probably overturned by a superior court. So it means that the appropriate authorities, the board particularly, can be compelled to take this step in this direction. But again, I am skeptical in what regard? When you have a government that seems not to be concerned about the welfare of citizens. Otherwise, if you have a government that is concerned about the welfare of citizens, the government didn't even have to wait for any mandate, any order by the court for the government to do what is necessary and important to enhance the welfare of citizens. But again, if the government probably wasn't conscious of that responsibility, and then but deliberate to ensuring that you enhance the welfare of citizens in real terms, not the kind of policies we had around the humanitarian ministry and all of those kinds, but in real terms, then it means when you have this kind of order of government, you just should have to comply with it.
All right. We'll open full lines now. Let's get thoughts from our listeners as to what they think about this court order and what you've said concerning the whole situation. I did not even know that Femi Falana is the chairman of the National Defense for, or rather the Defense for the Committee for Defense of Human Rights. I did you just mentioned.
Yes, he is. He's our national leader.
National leader. All right. So this is your thing, I guess. So I'm going to open the phone lines. Let's hear from you. Do you welcome this court order? Do you think it's implementable? Are you as skeptical as my guest is? NS Tubolaifa on Facebook says FG can fix the price of these items, but enforcement will be a great challenge. Do you agree with Tubolaifa? Tamino Iowuna Liliwe says nothing will come out because at the end of the day, another court will come with another conflicting order. And there is Zed Jerry saying the country is getting hard, but everything, including cooking gas, is expensive. Today, a kg of glass was sold at 1,500 in a country where there is abundance of glass. There is the government said, this is the government that said will change Nigeria just as they change Lagos. See them. I've got Ima from Kuta. Ima, welcome on the show. What is on your mind?
Yes,
I like to. Yeah, welcome.
Yes, my first question says, I hope this price control act or law will help fuel price to come down to 160 naira. Then I hope this act or law will also tell the international community not allow Adana to be rising seriously against the Nigerian naira. That's my question. Thank you.
All right. Did you hear him? Did you hear him, Barry Ekine? Hello, are you there?
Yes.
I was asking if you heard him what he said.
No, I didn't hear him.
It was asking, will the price control of these items make it very cheap? I think basically that's the summary of the questions he asked. Like petrol, for instance, are we going to see the price crash?
Can you take that again?
It was asking if it will make these items cheap, like price control that as ordered, the fixing of the prices. Would it make it cheap, or would it be, just another, what's your take on that?
If I got it earlier, I don't know. It was coming and breaking.
Okay, yeah, the line.
Maybe I would beg that you just repeat that.
The line is terrible, I guess. But basically, the caller is asking if it will cheapen the prices of these items at the marketplace. Petrol, for instance.
Oh, I got it.
Petrol
yeah,
for
the purpose for price control is actually to establish a maximum of the price of any commodity. That's the primary objective. And then most fundamentally is to ensure that there is accessibility and affordability of that commodity. So it will mean that if today, let's say the government agrees to comply with this decision of the court, and then to set up, because I doubt if that board is even in operation in any part of the country, because at the state level it's supposed to be price control committees. So if the governments at the different levels actually set up this board and the respective committees, then it will mean that those prices, when controlled, become lower than what we have at the moment. Because if it's not, then there is no difference at all. But it's actually intended to peg a price. One reason is so that there will be that fluctuation and, if you like, arbitrariness in pricing of commodities, so that you buy a particular commodity, essential commodity here at 1 naira, tomorrow you buy at another place at a different amount, or even in the same market. You walk into the market today in Port Harcourt, you go to Creek Road Market, and you buy probably a basin of curry at probably 10,000 naira, and then you come tomorrow and they say it's now 12,000 naira. But if you have a price control regime, and it could be that, a basin of curry sells at 12,000 naira. Everybody knows it's 12,000 naira at the maximum, and that is the price ceiling. So anywhere you go, any market you go, that's the price that you buy curry. At least for certainty.
All right.
Somebody, I was told the other day that a certain man was buying on social media. He went to the market with 2,000 naira, and perhaps he thought that he could buy some stuff and then go back home. But every day in the market he went, whatever he had to probably ask the price exceeded the money he had, and he went. So that's the uncertainty that can actually come on a situation where price is not controlled.
Okay.
But if you have a control regime, then there will be certainty, the prices will be fixed, and then it will be lower than we have at the moment. Whatever it is to fill the gap will be government policy in many regards. Like I said, in area of tariff, in area of customs and excise, and in area of even subsidy, and probably even local production. So these are strategies that can actually enable government to meet the difference between what would have been the market competitive price in terms of demand and supply, fixing the price in a free economy, and then in a controlled price regime.
All right, let me pause you now and put this into perspective now, and that is trade. For instance, in Kanu, there is a report that the traders are, how do I put it now? The traders and the government are having some kind of rift. Let me put it that way. The government has asked them to control the price of commodities in the marketplace, and the traders are saying we would rather lock up our stores and our products or items, our produce, rather than sell it at a cheap price and make losses. So, have you put the traders into consideration or into perspective while pushing for the fixing of prices?
Yes, Canada. When you have a price control regime, like we have the Price Control Act, I think Section 7 or 8 of that Act address the issue of hoarding. And then that argument by the traders in the market in Kano amounts to hoarding. And in this country, we have a lot of experiences when it comes to hoarding, especially essential commodities. Those who are in petroleum trade in this country just decide that they want the price to go up. They hoard the commodity. It's an offense under the Price Control Act. Offense to hoard commodities, or even to sell commodities other than the time that they were required to sell for the purpose of selling above the price ceiling. And Yes, I understand the plight of the traders in the market in Kano, and the same thing anywhere here in Port Harcourt. Maybe the traders went to those goods they want to come sell on their own, and even where they went to buy those goods, the prices were not controlled. So they would have to come sell for profit, and then you just wake up one day and they want to control the price. But if we had this regime going on, everybody would have been included. We have control the price regime controlled by demand and supply, and then in a free economy.
Okay. Let's take some messages because our time is even up. This one says
there's certainly going to be a procedure that we need to follow.
All right.
Policies will have to be put in place, and then even the government has to be deliberate in terms of other being a consuming economy and not a producing economy being a problem for this country. It was a joke, but reality.
Okay. We're out of time.
Economies are stronger.
I'm sorry, we're out of time, so I would have to pause you and thank you for your time and your contribution.
Thank you very much, Canada. It's always a pleasure to be on your platform and do the little that we can to contribute to the improvement in society.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Ekine, National Legal Advisor.
Introducing the Save and Win Pali Promo 3. This season, we're giving